I have I actually own a bunch of them, but not in the U.S. because I cannot own anything. I have an account at Coinbase. I've almost stripped it clean, so I don't want anything in there while they're at war with Gensler. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. So I hold mine under the OSC permit or the regulation in Canada. You can also do it in London, Switzerland, Abu Dhabi. There are places where you can own these actual tokens and be compliant. I choose to do Canada because they're under the auspices of the OSC, the Ontario Securities Commission, which is in constant dialogue with the SEC. The opportunity right now, in my view, is to simply say, okay, the leadership in terms of accounts is Coinbase. Let's hire somebody else that doesn't want to go to war. I mean, you got to commend Brian for what he's built. He's a pioneer, but he's got so many arrows in his back that he's destroying value. Let him be the chairman or something. I don't care, but get someone else that Gensler and the staff can negotiate with and get a deal done and call these securities what they are, securities. And then you can have trillions of dollars come into this market that's been waiting for this asset class. I want that. I'm owning Bitcoin stuck between 23 and 30,000, knowing that one day this will get resolved. Here's an opportunity to resolve it. Let's go. Let's turn the page.
And one day when it gets resolved, does the price, in your opinion, is that when it just blows up?
100%, because then institutions and sovereign wealth funds will put in a 50 to 300 basis point allocation. They've already indicated they want to do that. And all of a sudden you have a real market that's liquid with a lot of fundamental demand. When it trades above a 3% allocation, there'll be sellers. When it goes below, there'll be buyers, and you'll have a lot of liquidity and volume. And finally, we can resolve this ridiculous issue. Listen, I applaud the original founders of this nascent industry over a decade ago. The Kryptonians or the crypto cowboys, whatever you want to call them. But they represent a tiny fraction of invested capital globally. They are nothing burgers. And at the end of the day, we're never going to get anywhere until we get the real money behind crypto. The only way you're going to do that is stop fighting with the regulator.
Let's talk about...
That's it.
Do you think CZ understands the magnitude of it all? Or is he just thinking, whatever, I'll just leave the US, not be regulated here?
I read the charges. Those are serious allegations, including cross-pollination of accounts capital. I mean, you've seen this movie. It was called FTX just a few months ago. That BNB token is $50 billion market cap, and 10 accounts are 50% of the assets. If any one of those guys want to sell, it's FTX part 2. I mean, you've got to know right now billions of dollars are leaving. If I had an account at Binance, I would be exiting Dodge immediately.
Yeah,
and they're trying to freeze the assets in the US. That's what you do in fraud.
The commingling of accounts, could CZ have been that stupid, Kevin?
These are allegations to be proven in court. I mean, when you see a charge like that and you're an institutional investor, you don't stick around for the second part. You exit, you leave, you find another place to put your assets while it gets resolved. Because if you're a sovereign wealth fund, let's just speculate. I don't think this is the case, but let's say you're a wealthy individual in a jurisdiction like Zurich or in London, England, and you see those allegations from the largest regulator on earth that has unlimited resources to pursue them. Why would you even wait? You take your capital out. And these tokens that were the downfall of FTX, the FTT token, what's the difference between FTT and BNB today? Does CZ really have $54 billion of cash? I don't know. But if he doesn't, you're at huge risk. They'll go to zero like FTX did. Nobody knows. It's sheer speculation. But there's no transparency in ownership. You don't know who owns those wallets. And that's what the SEC is saying on the Know Your Client regulations. I think he's in a world of hurt. I don't know where he's going to hide. And every regulator will starve him from oxygen. They don't want to do business with somebody that's being charged with these allegations at the regulator level. There's no good news there.
You have long-standing beef with CZ. He had called you a liar back in December when you testified in front of Senate. But, despite all that, I mean, have you kind of looked past that? Have you moved on from that?
I actually have compassion for Hideh. I feel sorry for Hideh. He is a great entrepreneur that perhaps didn't read the tea leaves, all of those analogies. He had to know this. There was a constant buzz of regulators concerned. Remember the reason that Sam Bankman-Fried bought back his equity from Seeds, $2.1 billion, was CZ would not disclose anything to regulators anywhere in the world, and FTX could never get a license because he had 20% ownership on their balance sheet. And that was a great move when those two went to war with each other. CZ bankrupt, that's the allegation that came out in the charges during the hearings on the Hill with the Senate Banking Committee last December. And that was the beginning of CZ's problems. All of a sudden, every senator wakes up. They're starting to get tired of all of these allegations and every 6 months having more crypto hearings when the next exchange blows up and goes to zero and $2 or $3 or $4 billion is evaporated. So you've lost all of that political support. How can you be surprised that Gensler is not going after him? How can he be surprised? But this will not end well for him. And I think the real investment thesis that I'm going to make now, I'm going to start investing in regulated exchanges that have been so far unprofitable because they were competing against a behemoth in Binance that had no rules attached to it. It's the most profitable business in the world to be able to issue tokens anytime, anywhere, at any price you want, and have no regulator scrutinizing them. And that's exactly what he was doing. Now, it's a different story. In a matter of a single day, that world has changed for him, and I say the regulators start to starve him of oxygen. And so maybe it's time to buy that regulated exchange in Abu Dhabi. Maybe I buy more of the Canadian regulated exchange. What about that one in London I was looking at? They're all interesting to me because the accounts will slowly leave Binance and go to where they're regulated.
All right.